Ukraine has delivered one of the most significant economic blows to Russia since the beginning of the war by shutting down a critical gas pipeline that has been in operation for more than 4 decades. This pipeline, which transported Russian gas to Europe, was a major source of revenue for Moscow, generating billions of dollars annually. The decision, while bold, also raises questions about why it wasn't made earlier and how it will affect the ongoing conflict. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's uncover the truth together. Russia's economy is deeply reliant on its hydrocarbon exports. The late U.S. Senator John McCain once referred to the country as a gas station run by a mafia masquerading as a country, a statement that resonates even more strongly in the current geopolitical climate. For years, this dependency on energy exports has allowed Russia to wield significant influence, particularly over Europe. However, this reliance has also exposed vulnerabilities, as Ukraine has now demonstrated. By cutting off the transit of Russian gas, Ukraine has targeted one of the central pillars of Russia's economy, a move that will have far-reaching consequences for both nations. The pipeline in question has long been a critical route for Russian gas, connecting the vast reserves of Siberia to energy-hungry markets in Europe. For decades, countries like Slovakia, Austria, Hungary, and Italy relied on the gas flowing through this pipeline to power their economies and heat their homes, especially during harsh winters. Shutting down this route marks the end of an era and is emblematic of a broader shift in the geopolitical and energy landscape. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's uncover the truth together. President Zelensky made it clear that this decision was not just an economic one, but also a moral and strategic move. He stated that continuing to allow the transit of Russian gas would effectively fund the same war machine that has devastated Ukraine and caused immense suffering to its people. This perspective reflects a broader understanding that the conflict is not just about territorial disputes, but also about dismantling Russia's ability to finance its aggression. One of the most striking aspects of this decision is its timing. For many observers, the question arises, why did Ukraine wait so long to take this step? The answer lies in a combination of factors. Firstly, Europe's heavy reliance on Russian gas in the early stages of the war made such a move highly risky. Cutting off the gas supply could have created severe energy shortages, particularly during winter, leading to domestic unrest in European countries. This, in turn, might have weakened the political will of these nations to support Ukraine against Russia. Over the past year, however, European countries have worked to diversify their energy sources, reducing their dependency on Russian hydrocarbons. This shift has given Ukraine the confidence to take action without jeopardizing its alliances. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's uncover the truth together. Secondly, Ukraine itself had financial incentives to keep the pipeline operational. Gazprom, Russia's state-owned energy giant, paid Ukraine approximately $800 million annually in transit fees. For a country under siege and facing significant economic challenges, this revenue was not insignificant. However, the long-term benefits of cutting off Russian revenue streams and undermining its economy outweighed the short-term financial gains. This decision reflects a broader strategy to weaken Russia's economic base and limit its ability to sustain its war effort. The impact on Russia's economy cannot be overstated. Estimates suggest that the pipeline generated $5 to $7 billion annually for Moscow, a substantial sum for a country already struggling under the weight of international sanctions. Unlike oil, which can be transported relatively easily by tanker, natural gas requires specialized infrastructure such as pipelines. Building new pipelines to markets like China or India would take years and require significant investment, meaning that this lost revenue cannot be quickly replaced. Russia's response to this development has been predictable. Officials in Moscow have accused the United States of pressuring Ukraine to shut down the pipeline, suggesting that Washington stands to benefit from increased gas exports to Europe. While this narrative may play well domestically in Russia, it holds little credibility on the international stage. The reality is that Russia's actions, invading a sovereign nation and using energy as a weapon, have led to this outcome. Instead of taking responsibility for its failures, Moscow continues to deflect blame onto external actors. President Zelensky has framed this decision as a triumph for Ukraine and a significant defeat for Russia. In a statement on social media, he highlighted the symbolic and strategic importance of the move, noting that when Putin first came to power, over 130 billion cubic meters of gas were transited through Ukraine annually. Today, that figure stands at 0. This, he argued, is a direct result of Russia's decision to weaponize energy and resort to blackmail tactics with its partners. The closure of the pipeline also marks a turning point for Europe. For decades, the continent's reliance on Russian energy gave Moscow considerable leverage in political and economic negotiations. That leverage has now eroded as European countries have adjusted to life without Russian hydrocarbons. This shift not only strengthens Europe's energy security, but also diminishes Russia's ability to use energy as a tool of coercion. For Ukraine, the decision to shut down the pipeline is a testament to its resilience and strategic thinking. Despite being the smaller and less resource-rich nation, Ukraine has consistently managed to outmaneuver Russia in key areas. By targeting one of Russia's primary sources of revenue, Ukraine has struck a blow that extends beyond the battlefield and into the heart of Russia's economy. This move demonstrates Ukraine's ability to play the long game, focusing not just on immediate survival but also on shaping the post-war landscape. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's uncover the truth together. In conclusion, the shutdown of this pipeline is a significant development with implications that extend far beyond the immediate loss of revenue for Russia. It reflects a broader realignment of economic and geopolitical relationships, as Europe moves away from dependency on Russian energy and Ukraine asserts its sovereignty and strategic capabilities. For Russia, the challenge now is to adapt to a rapidly changing world where its traditional sources of power and influence are diminishing. And for Ukraine, this marks yet another step in its journey to not just resist but actively reshape the dynamics of this conflict. The transformation of Europe's energy dynamics is an unfolding narrative, marked by significant geopolitical implications. The increasing supply of American gas to Europe is a cornerstone of this shift, one that President Zelensky has not hesitated to spotlight. He emphasized the importance of collaboration with reliable partners to ensure maximum supply, which, in turn, promises to stabilize energy prices across the region. The underlying message is clear. The sooner Europe diversifies its energy sources, the faster it can escape the lingering dependence on Russian gas, a move that challenges Moscow's once dominant position in the global energy market. This change is more than an economic adjustment. It is a calculated strategy in a larger geopolitical game. Zelensky's public mention of American gas replacing Russian supply likely serves multiple purposes. Beyond highlighting the tangible benefits of energy diversification, it may also be a subtle signal to the United States and other allies about Ukraine's indispensable role in Europe's energy security. Such positioning strengthens Ukraine's diplomatic leverage, potentially creating opportunities for Zelensky to negotiate more favorable terms in future collaborations with leaders like Donald Trump. Meanwhile, for Putin, this development represents a bitter pill to swallow, a direct consequence of policies that have backfired spectacularly on the global stage. Parallel to these energy developments, Russia's economy continues to falter under the weight of mounting sanctions and declining revenues. The Russian ruble has been in freefall against the US dollar, a stark visual indicator of the country's economic instability. While the average Russian citizen may not immediately feel the pinch of this devaluation in their day-to-day lives, businesses that rely on international trade are acutely aware of its impact. For them, a weaker ruble translates to diminished purchasing power and increased difficulty in maintaining competitive pricing on the global market. In theory, a weaker currency could offer some relief by making Russian exports more affordable and attractive to foreign buyers. This is a tactic long associated with countries like China, which has faced accusations of deliberately undervaluing its currency to boost export competitiveness. However, Russia's situation is vastly different. The heavy sanctions imposed by Western nations have crippled its ability to trade freely on the global market, rendering this potential advantage largely moot. What could have been a lifeline for the Russian economy has instead become another reminder of the limitations imposed by international isolation. On the flip side, the disadvantages of a devalued currency are hitting Russia with full force. Imported goods have become significantly more expensive, driving up inflation and exacerbating the economic hardships faced by ordinary Russians. Basic necessities now cost more, further straining a population already grappling with the fallout of a protracted conflict. Inflation has become such a prominent issue that even Putin, during his end-of-year Q&A session, found himself fielding multiple questions about it. Yet, his responses offered little in terms of solutions. Instead, he deflected blame onto the central government, avoiding any acknowledgement of his own role in creating the conditions that led to this economic crisis. The ongoing war in Ukraine, which Putin initially described as a special military operation intended to last mere days, has now dragged on for years. It has evolved into a drawn-out conflict that continues to drain Russia's financial resources at an alarming rate. The costs associated with maintaining this war economy, purchasing drones from Iran, acquiring ammunition from North Korea, and sustaining military operations on the ground, are rising in tandem with the ruble's decline. For Russian taxpayers, this means more of their money is being funneled into a conflict that shows no sign of yielding tangible results. Wars, as history has shown, are not solely won on the battlefield but also through economic endurance. The nation with the stronger, more resilient economy often prevails in the long term. This reality is precisely why Putin never intended for this conflict to become a prolonged affair. Yet, circumstances have forced his hand, and Russia now finds itself locked in a war of attrition with Ukraine, a nation that has demonstrated remarkable resilience and determination. Economic experts and Ukrainian officials are increasingly suggesting that 2025 could be a decisive year for Russia's war economy. While the Kremlin may have prepared for short-term sanctions and economic backlash, it is becoming evident that it was ill-equipped for the long-term consequences of international isolation. The sustained financial drain, coupled with an inability to adapt to the new economic landscape, is pushing Russia closer to a breaking point. The so-called special military operation has morphed into an enduring quagmire, draining resources, eroding public morale, and destabilizing the Russian economy. The cracks in Putin's strategy are widening, and the costs, both monetary and human, are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Meanwhile, Ukraine's resilience and strategic partnerships have turned the tide, enabling it to fight not just on the battlefield but also in the economic arena. As this high-stakes conflict continues, the question is no longer just how long Russia can sustain its war economy but whether it can withstand the cumulative consequences of its miscalculations. Each passing day brings new challenges for the Kremlin, and the world watches as this geopolitical chess match unfolds, wondering which side will ultimately emerge victorious. As Putin's reserves, painstakingly accumulated over the past decade in preparation for his so-called special military operation, dwindle rapidly, the Russian economy is beginning to buckle under the immense weight of sanctions. Simultaneously, Putin himself is feeling the intensifying pressure of the war he initiated. The conflict has devolved into a war of attrition, but more importantly, it is now a war of economies. To shed light on this, an economist recently outlined how this war hinges on economic investments and returns. Here's what they had to say. Essentially, any war is a battle of economies. It's all about the return on investment. For example, Ukraine has strategically utilized drones costing anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 to destroy Russian ammunition depots worth billions of dollars. This kind of efficiency delivers an incredible return on investment. In contrast, when Russia targets Ukraine, they might send costly heavy missiles to destroy infrastructure worth $1 billion, like a key energy plant, but those rockets themselves cost tens of millions. The balance of spending versus destruction is far less efficient on Russia's side. The expert further elaborated on Russia's questionable tactics, such as targeting civilian infrastructure with no strategic or economic value. These attacks, often classified as war crimes, serve one purpose: to terrorize and fatigue the Ukrainian population. For instance, The infamous double-tap strikes involve a missile hitting a target, followed by a second strike aimed at first responders. Such horrific actions are designed to break morale and pressure Ukraine into surrendering. But this strategy has failed spectacularly. Far from breaking, the morale of the Ukrainian people remains steadfast. In fact, it is their resilience and determination that drive the nation's leadership. President Zelensky himself cannot yield to external pressure for negotiations, even if they were on the table, because the Ukrainian people demand nothing less than complete justice and reparations for the atrocities inflicted by Russia. Their collective resolve has been shaped by immense suffering, and they refuse to settle for anything short of Russia's withdrawal and accountability. While Russia's economic missteps mount, Ukraine's calculated investments continue to yield results. However, the struggle is far from over, and as the war grinds on, its impact on both nations' economies becomes increasingly evident. Every decision, every dollar, and every resource matters in this prolonged battle. On another note, platforms like YouTube often restrict or demonetize content covering sensitive topics like these. To address this, we've launched memberships and Patreon to allow viewers like you to directly support the work we do. Your support ensures we can continue creating and sharing critical insights into global conflicts without being constrained by advertiser preferences. If you'd like to contribute, you can join our Patreon or become a YouTube member. QR codes and links are available on screen and in the description.